A plane, a jump, a dive through the sky. 3 figures fall: an instructor, a student, and a cameraman named Ivan Lester McGuire. He has done this before, hundreds of times. Nothing feels unusual, until something is. The tandem pair opens their parachute. They rise, drifting upward in the frame. But Ivan keeps falling. He reaches to his side, once. Then again. There's no ripcord, and there's no parachute. Just the terrifying realization of a mistake that cannot be undone. From behind the lens, a voice breaks the silence. Oh my God, no. Durham, North Carolina. Spring, 1988. Ivan Lester McGuire was 35. A quiet man, deeply focused, meticulous. He worked at Northern Telecom by day, but his passion lived far above the clouds. He wasn't just a skydiver. He was an aerial cinematographer, filming jumps to perfection. With over 800 dives under his belt, his name was respected at the Franklin County Sports Parachute Center. They called him a perfectionist. Ivan aspired to be the best skydiving photographer in the country. On April 2nd, Ivan arrived at the drop zone like many other weekends before. But this day would be different. He had already completed 2 jumps. His third would be his last. He stayed later than usual, 2.5 hours longer than his typical schedule. He wanted to get one final shot at educational material being developed by the Parachute Center. That decision would have fatal consequences. But there were warnings leading up to that final jump. Warning 1, a near miss. Earlier that day, Ivan had boarded the plane for his second jump without his parachute. A fellow jumper caught the error just in time and pointed it out to Ivan. Ivan had laughed it off. Maybe he was tired. Perhaps he was distracted. But it was a warning. A veteran skydiver making a rookie mistake. That should have meant something. But Ivan continued on to his third and final jump of the day. Warning 2, fatigue and focus. Ivan's focus that day was filming. He was wearing a large, heavy video system strapped to his back, equipment that, in 1988, was bulky and dense, nothing like the compact GoPros we use today. The harness used for the camera pack felt remarkably similar to a parachute rig. Weight, tension, and pressure on the shoulders. To the body, it could feel identical. Ivan assumed the parachute was there because it always had been. Maybe it was routine. Ivan had done this so many times, it no longer felt like something to think about. Maybe it was exhaustion. This was his third jump of the day, and fatigue was setting in. But that was the danger of repetition. With each jump, the possible danger lost its weight, and the life or death checks faded into routine. The twin-engine Beech D-18 lifted off the runway. Ivan was with 2 others, a student and their instructor. He was there to film them. The footage would be used for training and promotional purposes. They ascended past 10,000 feet. The videotape shows McGuire leaving the plane first, turning his helmet camera back toward the plane to catch the exit. The student and instructor then jump and free fall. Ivan floats below them, tracking their descent. The student and instructor deploy their parachute. As they drift upward, disappearing above him, Ivan's right hand drops to his hip, where the parachute release should be. But it's not there. The left hand follows, almost as if to confirm the impossible. And in that moment, it hits him. The motion shifts, sudden, erratic, frantic. A quiet panic unfolds in silence. He knows, then everything accelerates. The footage begins to blur as the camera hurtles toward Earth. Ivan is falling at 150 miles per hour, and the ground is rising to meet him. Ivan's body was found in a wooded area, nearly 1.5 miles from the parachute center. At first, there were questions. Had his parachute malfunctioned? Had it come loose? But when the footage was recovered, torn, degraded, but partially intact, it showed the truth. He never had one. The FAA ruled out suicide. Toxicology reports were clean, no drugs, no foul play. The leading theories were chilling in their simplicity: fatigue, distraction, repetition, and the deceptive similarity between his camera harness and a parachute rig. Franklin County Sheriff Captain Ralph Brown said he was 99% sure it was an accident. Ivan simply mistook his video gear for his parachute. He ruled out foul play and stated there was no indication of suicide. Although, a man who has jumped 800 times ought to remember his parachute. Attention briefly turned to the pilot, Mark Luman. FAA regulations, specifically Regulation Number 105, state that no one should jump without the pilot checking their parachutes. Initially, Luman was difficult to contact during the investigation. Eventually, the FAA suspended his license for 30 days, not because he caused the death, but because he didn't prevent it. However, the investigation concluded it was not the pilot's place to monitor activity at the plane's rear. The fatal and tragic error began and ended with Ivan.